Hello, light workers, light bearers, and light warriors. Today I'm going to share something with you. It's a process that I find very, very healing, and it's to heal the child in us. And it's something that I do a lot in my therapy. So I'll see you on the other side. I don't know if you're familiar with what's called MK Ultra. MK Ultra is something that's very real, and it's used today to create what we would call alternate personalities in people, and it's done through way of, awful things, but trauma, and it's called trauma-based mind control. Why do they have to use trauma to create extra split personalities? Well, because what I've found in the time that I've worked with people is that when we as children, and MK Ultra starts when you're a child, that's when it's done. Okay? What happens is when we suffer trauma as a child, we kind of get fractured. It's almost as though a piece of us gets fractured and left there. And until that piece is found and healed, it's going to be separate. So it's almost like, imagine we're born whole, we're born a beautiful diamond. But when trauma comes, it's like a hammer on a diamond, and bits shatter off and they get left behind. Now, how does that impact on our lives? Well, just with MK Ultra, what has to happen is they install like a keyword, perhaps, that triggers off a certain personality, and the same happens with us. I mean, really, MK Ultra is just normal child trauma on speed, I suppose. But what happens is, we get triggered, and when we get triggered in a certain way, our child, this wounded child, comes shooting forward to the front. Let me give you some examples of it. You'll see it. If you, with some people, if you put them under pressure, basically what happens is this: the trigger has to be fired off that actually created the trauma in the first bit. So if it was abuse, then somebody has to be abusive. If it was bullying, then somebody has to be bullying. But typically what happens is this: when that trigger is fired off and the neural pathway goes back, I know where this started, what happens is the person reverts to being a child again. And the behavior that comes is childlike, if that makes sense. So that's why you'll see when people feel threatened, and it's always about threat. Remember, the whole trauma thing is fear of death. Like, this could be the end of me. And as a child, that's a very powerful fear. That's a trauma fear. So when we feel that we're being attacked, that we were under threat, what happens is this triggers off this child response. People get angry. You'll see adults. How many times have you heard, "Why are you behaving like a child? You're being like a child." Okay, this is very common, and this always happens when people are under extreme pressure, when they're under attack, when they are threatened. They behave like children, and that's because there is a program that's running. This splintered program, this unhealed program, which causes them to behave like that. Some people attack, get physical when they feel threatened. That's their coping mechanism. That's what they learn to do as a child. Some people scream. I've seen adults throwing themselves to the floor and screaming, just like a child, because that was what they did to cope at that time when they were children. Some adults go all sulky. They get really sulky and they stop speaking and they go and sit on the sulky step. It's just all it is each time is the child in us that comes forward and it kind of shows its head, rears its head. Yeah. So that's what happens when we have suffered trauma. Now, you might say, well, I didn't suffer any trauma. But the fact is that around about 80% of us have. You see, trauma, unlike MK Ultra, which uses horrible trauma, I mean, trauma that is, there's no two ways about it, 100% of people that have that have suffered trauma. The trauma that we suffer as children can be absolutely like nothing as you think about it now. Like, I've worked with people and I've done regressions to past trauma where all it's been is somebody spending too much time alone in their cot, being left alone, watching the parent go out of the house and thinking that they were being abandoned. The very, very small things, doing something wrong and being frightened that they were going to get into trouble. Okay, having a stern look from a parent after they've done something bad. These are all traumatic events for a child. So it doesn't have to be, it isn't. In fact, I would say 99% of the trauma that I work with has nothing to do with what you might imagine trauma to be. It has to do with not having the attention, not having the approval of our parents, not having the love, or seeing love going to somebody else when you feel it should go to you. I mean, they're just all the things that lots of parents aren't able to manage very well because they're not aware of it. But a child is very, very aware of it. And so lots and lots of things can cause childhood trauma. But it's easy to resolve. It's easy to resolve because children heal really quickly if you take time to heal them. And that's what I'd like to do with you today. It's it's a snippet of a much longer process. But I think, thinking about it, I think we all would get some benefit from this if we do this together. Okay? And it's a nice simple process. I'm going to talk you through it. So if you're happy to do this with me, we're going to do it in a kind of a light state of relaxation. Okay? When we don't have to go into heavy trance to do this. All you do is you're using your imagination and your images in your head, okay? Or feelings or sounds or whatever. If you do want to do this, make sure that you are not doing anything where you have to have your attention elsewhere, okay? If you're going to do this, please sit down with me and do this nicely when you're on your own, when you're not going to be disturbed and you're comfortable, okay? And that doesn't mean when you're driving. Okay, don't do it when you're driving. Please. Okay. So, make yourself comfortable. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with 3 nice, very deep breaths. So take a nice deep breath. Hold it. And as you exhale, just close your eyes. That's it. And then take another deep breath in. Hold it. And then release it. And then we'll do that one more time. Take a nice deep breath in. Hold it a little longer this time. And then release. Okay. So keeping your eyes closed, just spend some time with me listening to the sound of my voice. Let your breathing fall into its natural pattern and just begin to slowly relax yourself. Relaxation is a progressive thing, and so the more that you sit and you listen to the sound of my voice, the more that you breathe in and out, the more that you can start to relax, and that you can start just to allow yourself to go down and drift into a very nice state of relaxation where the only thing that you need to do is to pay attention to the sound of my voice. You don't need to do anything else. You'll find that you'll have thoughts that wander into your mind, and just let them do that. Let them wander in and then let them wander out. All of that is good as you allow yourself just to keep on relaxing. With every out breath that you take, double that relaxation that's beginning to develop inside of you as you sit there, calm, with your eyes closed. And with every word that I say, I would like you to allow your mind to quieten down too. And so, all of that just allows you now to be able to focus very clearly on what I'm saying and focus very easily on this process. Now let me tell you a little bit about our child. Very often we know that our child, the smaller part of us, the part from all those years ago, has suffered. Children suffer for lots of different reasons. Nearly always they suffer because of a misunderstanding. They misunderstand something that's happening and they misread it. For example, sometimes children don't get the attention from their parents that they want, and because of that they think that there must be something wrong with them. You see, when we're children, our parents are like gods. Our parents are all powerful, all seeing and all knowing. And so when they fail to give us the love that we need, when they fail to give us the approval that we need, when they fail to give us the attention that we need, then we begin to think that it was our fault, that there must be something wrong with us. And that's where the misunderstanding comes in. Because there's nothing wrong with us. You see, when we are born into this world, we are born into this world perfect. We are beautiful. And I'm talking about on the inside. We're born a perfect little diamond. Beautiful. Untainted. Perfect. And what happens is that those around us, those that we love, those that we think are important, begin to put their shit onto us. And they give us their shit. And we, being children, and because we trust them, we accept their shit. And we take it on board. And we end up covering our beautiful little diamond in their shit. And then what happens is this. After a while we forget that we are a diamond. And the reason that we forget that we are a diamond is because we look down and we see, every time that we look down, all we see is shit. We look at ourselves and say, hey, I can see only shit, therefore I must be shit. And so that's where the problem lies. That the small child has forgotten that it's a diamond. It's forgotten that it's perfect and that it doesn't need to be anything else other than what you are. Now, all of us at some point have suffered some kind of upset when we were children. And especially when we were little children. You see, the most important years of our life are from 0 up to 6 or 7. Of course, up to 11 are very important years, but 6 or 7, that's when damage can be done. That's when we can be most hurt. And that hurt stays with us for a very long time. In fact, it stays with us for as long as we choose not to deal with it. And it's almost like a thorn in the side. It's like this ever reappearing trauma. It never really goes away. We hide it. We turn our back on it. But it keeps coming back. Always when we're under pressure, when we are at our lowest ebb, that trauma resurfaces and we regress back to being a child. And so what I'd like to do now with you is a very simple process. I want you now just to sit and contemplate your life as a very young child. There were good moments, of course there were. Children have many, many beautiful moments just because they're children. You were born happy. But then things happen. Upsets happen. Trauma happens. And so I'd like you now to allow your mind, your unconscious mind, because your unconscious mind is very present at the moment. Your unconscious mind knows that there is a possibility to do some healing, and so it will assist you in this. It is present and it is very aware of what is about to happen. And so, what I'd like you to do now is allow your unconscious mind to take you back through time, back across the years. And as you go back through the years, you become smaller and smaller physically. Time is going backwards, and you are going back through time, right the way back. And allow your unconscious mind to take you back to a time, perhaps one of the very first times, where something happened where you were not happy. Something happened that caused you to feel very, very bad, or very, very scared, or very, very worried, or very, very upset. And just allow yourself now to find yourself in that place, to find yourself in that moment, understanding that this was a moment in which you are not happy. This is a moment in which you, as a very small child, are not having a very nice time. And just become aware of what's happening now. This will happen naturally, and the scene will build the more that you contemplate it, and more information will come the more that you spend time here. And I want you to be aware of what's happening. What is it that's making you so upset? What is it that's happening that's making you sad or angry or frightened? And I want you to be aware of that and notice what it is that you're feeling. What is it that you're feeling there? And if you can get an age, then that's even better. About how old are you? Where are you? Are you inside or are you outside? Is it daytime or is it nighttime? And are you alone or are you with somebody or some people? And just take a moment now to let the scene build up, for you to understand what it is that's happening to you and why it is that you are feeling what you're feeling now. And I'll be quiet while you build the scene. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do now is be sure that you understand what's happening in this scene, what what it is that's upsetting the little you. And then I'm going to ask you to leave that scene and come back to the present moment, still staying calm with your eyes closed. But I just want to talk to you, and I want you to understand one thing. That was a very difficult time for you. Something bad was happening. And in that moment, you felt scared or in danger, almost like your life was in danger. But of course, here you are now, in this moment, and you know that that was not life-threatening. That didn't put your life in danger. In fact, you overcame that because you were strong enough to get through that. And although it left a mark on you, it impacted you, you have been able to go through your life and function perfectly well despite that. And so now what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you in a moment to go back to that same scene. Now this time when you go back, what you'll find is that lots of the emotion that was there will be disappearing. You'll notice that it'll be almost neutral as you go back there, because you understand that that wasn't life-threatening. It seemed dangerous, but it wasn't dangerous because you're still here and you're still okay. So let's go back now. Allow yourself to be carried all the way back through time to that scene again. And as you observe that scene this time and see what's happening, notice how the emotion is draining out of the scene. Notice that you've got new perceptions about the scene. And as you notice all of that, notice how you are feeling now about what's happening. What is it that you're learning about what's happening? What is it that you can see now that perhaps you weren't able to see before? What are you aware of? Perhaps you become aware of the fact that even the big people in this scene, if there are some, they aren't able to behave like big people sometimes. Sometimes the big people behave like children, and we know why. Some people behave randomly for no reason, and we just make a meaning out of that that's often very wrong. And so perhaps you can notice now that the feeling in this memory is a little different. And so I'm going to ask you now to leave that scene and come back to the present again, and I'm going to talk to you. The very act of going back and revisiting these places takes the emotion out of it, because you realize that it was okay, that nothing really bad happened, and that you were able to continue. You were able to get over that. You were able to function as you went forward in life. And so it wasn't life-threatening. It didn't put you in terrible, terrible danger, even though at the time it seemed that way. And so what we're going to do in a moment is we're going to go back. But this time you're going to go back as an adult. And you're going to go to that place, that memory, and you're going to visit the little child, the you. The one that's there and that's been stuck there for a long time. And as you go back there, you'll notice that all of the emotion has disappeared out of the event, and that it's really neutral now. And this is the place where healing can begin. So go back now, travel back through the time, and find yourself in that scene again. But you are the adult now. You are you, as you are now. And I want you to be aware of the little you that's in that scene. Now, the little you is starting to understand that maybe the danger wasn't so bad. Maybe it wasn't so bad. But this is where you can really start to help to heal. So I want you to go and I want you to get on your knees in front of the little you. And I want you to hold the little you's hands. And I want you to look in the little you's eyes. And I want you to say these words. I'm sorry that you had to go through this. I'm sorry that I wasn't there to help you and to support you. But I'm going to make a promise to you now that from now on, I will always be there for you. You will never have to go through anything on your own again. I am here with you and for you. And I promise to take care of you from now on. And together, we will be so much stronger. And I want you to notice what happens to the face of the little you when they hear your words. And there are some things that the little you needs to be told now. Some things that you need to say to that little you that will help the little you to heal and to be strong and to understand. And so now, I'd like you to do that. Take some time and let the little you hear what it needs to hear. And notice how things change. Look at the little you and notice how they look, how they feel. Maybe they're smiling now. Maybe they look relieved. Maybe they just look like they want to have some fun. And so now, I'd like you to take the little you in your arms, and I want you to squeeze that little you so tightly with love, so tightly with security, with approval. I want you to squeeze them so tightly that you bring the little you inside of you, into your body, and allow all of those cells, those molecules, that DNA to start to join, to meld together, to become one, so that you now are whole, you are one. And notice how that feels, to have the joy, the excitement, the thrill of a little person inside of you as an adult. Notice how that changes your perspectives. Notice how that makes you into a different person. And notice the relief that you feel upon being whole again, being completed. And now, as a different person, as a whole person, as the real, unique, authentic person, I'd like you now just to turn around and look at your timeline from that place all the way to the present, almost like a train track that goes off into the distance. And now, as a whole person, as a unique and authentic person, I'd like you now to begin to move along through time, forward along that track, that line of time. And notice that perhaps all of the hurdles that had been there previously, you were able now to plough through them. All of the hiccups, all of the bends in the track now are easy to manage because you were whole, you were one, you were healed. And notice how much stronger you are as you come through, whizzing through time, knocking everything off, every obstacle off the path, off the track. Just like one of those trains that pushes the snow off the track. And bring yourself all the way up to the very now. But as a different person, as a whole person, as a completed person. Now you can start to be the authentic you. Now you can start to actually enjoy life, just as a child enjoys life. Because now you have that child inside of you, and that child is healed. That child feels so much better now. And maybe all of those years in which it didn't feel great have all fallen away, so that now maybe it's time to have some fun. Maybe now it's time to laugh. Maybe now it's time to jump and to sing and to clap your hands just for the joy of jumping and singing and clapping your hands. Now is the time to celebrate the real you, the completed you, the healed you. And so you'll notice as the hours and the days go by, you'll notice changes. You'll notice new ways of looking at old things. You'll have new perceptions. You'll feel good for no other reason than a child feels good, just for the very sake of being alive. And all of that will happen not because I'm telling you. All of that will happen because that is the natural thing that happens when your child is healed now. And so, knowing all of that and understanding that this is a progressive thing, and so you will feel progressively better as time goes by. And so, I'll count from 1 to 5. And when I reach 5, you'll be back here feeling wonderful, feeling better than you've felt in a long time. 1. 2. Notice the change in your breathing, feeling the energy coming back to your limbs, to your muscles. 3. Starting to feel your body move and change. 4. Feeling stronger, feeling ready to come back. And 5. Coming back and feeling better than you felt in a long time. So how do you feel? How was that experience? Everything that you've done is going to heal you. Everything that you have done is going to change you. Everything that you have done is going to make you happier, healthier, and more whole. So I hope that's been valuable for you. Take some time now just to take it easy. Go and have a cup of tea or coffee, something warm to drink. Be kind to yourself just for a little bit until you get yourself back here. And if you need to, take your shoes and socks off and stamp on the ground a little bit just to ground yourself. And have a wonderful day. Thank you for sharing this with me, and I hope it helps.